If I'm doing an audition for more of these OTB AMs, not doing myself any favours because it's not actually the papers, it's Shane Keegan next, and Shane was probably worried that he was going to sit through 20 minutes of me and Rudd going through the papers there rather than coming on. Good morning to you, Shane.
How are you, Johnny? Are you well?
What's going on?
All quiet, all quiet. Isolating like most of the rest of the world at the moment.
Do you have the dreaded virus?
I do indeed, yeah. I don't know how I'd avoided it for as long as I had now, to be honest with you. But yeah, hunkering down here for the next 10 days or so.
How do you feel?
Not too bad. If you hear a little bit of spluttering and coughing, apologies, you know where it's coming from.
We'll start with Man United. Lots of, I don't know, I'm not going to lie, I find it a little bit of a... I don't know, like a hamster on the wheel here that just goes on and on and on. We talk about Man United, they win a game, they lose a game. You know, Bruno Fernandes missed a good chance, which may have won them the game last night, but they lose the game 1-0. Obviously, to Wolves were not a bad side. What did you make of it?
Yeah, pretty. I think if it's nailed the head, same old, really. I'm getting close to I told you so territory. I think myself, yourself, Dan, and JD were talking about United a couple of weeks ago, and they had finally kind of won a game or two, and I think he kind of reckoned it was only inevitable that they were going to take off and get the remaining Champions League spot. But at the time, I wasn't as convinced as you, and I'm certainly still not at this stage, really, to be honest with you. I don't know, Johnny. I just don't think the character is there amongst that group of players. I really don't. But it isn't. I mean, because
who are the leaders?
You know, who are the leaders? Who are, the body language? I know I'm pointing to obvious things here, but the body language is just horrendous. I mean, you can tell so much about a group of players in terms of how do they react when the ball goes into the back of the net. And look, I know everybody is not a Harry Kane fan, but obviously as a Spurs fan, I'd probably be watching more of Spurs than anybody else. And I always like when something goes wrong for Spurs, Harry Kane is very, very quick to start, pumping the hands as much as say, come on boys, let's get ourselves going. And he's big into this, pointing at the heads, come on boys, let's get the heads right kind of a thing. And even just small things like that, I might be reading too much into, but things like that can make a difference. You need 3 or 4 lads in your side whose immediate reaction is to do that rather than immediate reaction. I mean, watching back John Moutinho's goal last night, the first thing I noticed out of the corner of my eye as the ball is going into the corner is you just see Shaw is the only one you can see. Luke Shaw, and his 2 arms are up in the air, and he's giving it that again straight away. And it's just I don't care who the man. Now I don't think the manager's formation and tinkering is helping things, but I honestly don't believe it matters who the manager is at Manchester United at the moment, really.
In fairness, Rory, to Shane, he did say this, like when Rangnick got the job, he said, like, pound for pound in terms of what Solskjaer has done here, I don't think the players are actually much better, or if at all better, than the position that they're in. What did you make the game last night? Because the 4-2-2-2, 2-2-2-2, the Ronaldo situation, they've just been actually quite poor since he took over anyway.
Wolves were very good.
Wolves are a good side.
They are a good side, but I think if you're a well-drilled, tactically organised team like Wolves seem to be, and I haven't seen a lot of Wolves this year, and wouldn't, they've kind of passed me by, but I was quite impressed by them. I think United are a perfect team to play against because they're so ragged, and if you're well organised, if you know your stuff, you can probably cause them all sorts of problems. But it's just still remarkable to me to see teams like Wolves going to Man United and dominating at Old Trafford, in the way that they did. But I think, like, Shane can talk to the challenge of being, coming in mid-season. A manager like Rangnick, who seems to be such a project manager and kind of a long-term thinker and one of these kind of great thinkers of the game, as far as where we were led to believe by the 1,500 profile pieces that came out when he got the job. He's not a guy to come in midway through the season and turn things around, because you can't do a tactical reboot at Christmas, and to try and do that with. They're not bad players. They're all they seem to be just a random collection of individuals who don't fit together, and there's no plan for them. So you're trying to do all that at the same time. It just seems like, and they had a COVID outbreak as well. So it seems like almost an impossible job for someone like that. They almost needed someone, just a big personality to come in, just get them organised, get them out there. But it's a weird job. It's a weird club at the moment.
Because I suppose by contrast as well, the way Spurs and Arsenal lost against Man City, they actually played very well though, Shane. And even Wolves, there are some resurgent teams there in that battle for the top four, for that fourth position. But like, what's gone wrong tactically from the perspective from your own coaching perspective? Shane does excellent articles on the 42 about tactical analysis of games. I imagine it's not that hard to dissect what Man United are doing with this formation, and probably an inability to press in certain areas.
Yeah, look, I think he got an immediate bounce, as you would be hoping to do as a new manager. I think, everybody was happy to shout from the rooftops in terms of the improvement in the pressing on the back of his first game. And the numbers stood up, that there was a big jump in terms of the pressing in that first game. I'd be really, really interested to see the pressing numbers last night compared to the pressing numbers when Solskjaer was there, because
is it better?
Maybe I'm wrong. I wouldn't have thought so last night. I wouldn't have thought so. I would have thought it was reverting to the mean again, really, to be honest with you, because you can only when players have the kind of personalities that the United lads have, they will revert back to human nature, their own human nature, very, very quickly.
So you're calling out their personalities here, Shane?
The personalities, playing style, application. I don't know what way you put it, but like there's a lack of any kind of real desire to work hard there. I think that's definitely fair enough to say.
Across the team, effectively?
Yeah. I think so. Maybe, and in some of them, maybe it's completely ingrained, and in some of them, maybe it's where their head is at this moment in time. I mean, to be fair, you would never have criticised Rashford in the past for a lack of work rate. So there are fellas there who have shown it before, but at the moment, sometimes under Solskjaer it was the lack of cohesion to the pressing. Sometimes it was just the lack of interest in pressing, and Rangnick was supposed to be the one who was going to fix all that. That hasn't really transpired in the longer term. And I suppose the strange one for me, Johnny, is I would have said when he came in that as an attacking team they weren't too bad, because they've got some extra fantastic attacking quality. And that obviously it was the defensive setup that he needed to try and really, really improve. And we've now got to the stage where he's completely ripped up the attacking template, and he's trying to bring in a whole new attacking template. And
which is
defensive.
what?
Well, obviously the formation that he's going with, the 2-2-2-2, as you called it, how many twos we can put into something. It's, it definitely has the look of square pegs and round holes. I mean, how many? That relies on two number 10s playing in the system. I mean, how many number 10s have Manchester United got? They played with two number 10s last night and left their only true number 10 on the bench. So that definitely seemed, it's as I say, square pegs, round holes, definitely in that sense.
This is a point I've made a few times since Ronaldo has come in. What have the other offensive players done since Ronaldo has come in? And Ronaldo individually has had some obviously very good games, but I'd like to see the Man United's record since he came in versus before he came in. But the other offensive players, I mean, they just seem to have fallen into a complete hole.
They do, yeah, and obviously that particularly Bruno Fernandes. I mean,
what's that about, Shane? Sorry to interrupt, but that was even in the Portugal-Ireland games, that was obvious as well. There's no cohesion between the pair of them.
No, I don't know. You need the Andy Mittens of the world to explain what the actual relationship is like between two guys like that. I don't know. Are they two fellas who get on very, very well or not? I did find it very interesting last night that Bruno Fernandes took that last free kick. I think that potentially means that, I'd look at that and I'd say, okay, well, maybe there is one person in this dressing room that Ronaldo is willing to listen to, or is willing to maybe play second fiddle to. Because, I mean, as soon as he went down and they got the free, you went, okay, here's Ronaldo, who numerous articles have shown of recent is actually one of the worst free kick takers in the world based on the amount of attempts he's had versus the success he's had. And then he stepped up and didn't take the free, which, I thought, okay, I actually thought that was something of a positive sign. But like Fernandez's form last year, lads, it's kind of beginning to be forgotten. Like he was incredible. I mean, he was. I know Ronaldo has been good since he came to the club, but Fernandes was better. Fernandes was absolutely incredible for Manchester United last season. And if the plus of Ronaldo's arrival and the plus of his performances also has to equal the downturn in Bruno Fernandes' performances, well, there's no sum gain there, because what one lad is bringing has completely dropped off and what the other lad was bringing. So, that, like, effectively, that's not a step forward at all.
It was interesting, I thought, that Sancho didn't give him the ball in that first half chance when you know, Ronaldo went on the overlap, and like, maybe, I don't know, is that, you know, Sancho not giving him the ball when he's in a better position and Fernandes taking the free kick off him? Is that some form of influence of maybe people trying, you know, are they being told not to defer to Ronaldo all the time? But you know, what do you make of him, Shane? Because he was the big signing before Ronaldo came along, and he was the great hope that they signed, and then just got shoved aside for the old timer who came in, and just they don't seem to have a plan for him, or they didn't, certainly before Ranić came in.
No, definitely not. I was watching it last night, Rory, and I was half expecting Ronaldo to give the old sign across to the subs bench to get him off, and he didn't. But he didn't react.
He didn't even like you'd expect Ronaldo to kind of throw his hands up in the air, but he almost seemed like maybe thought it was the right option, just done badly. But he, you know, I don't know, is he resigned to his own fate, Ronaldo, at this stage? But he didn't even throw his toys out of the pram that time, which I thought was really weird.
No, he didn't. Their decision making actually early on in the final third, Rory, was really poor, wasn't it? Because he also had the Cavani one where he should have slipped Greenwood on the outside when he was coming around him. They could have made life a bit easier on themselves in that sense. But no, Sancho, I mean, again, you know, he's probably victim of the fact that they don't have a settled system. They don't have a settled position for him. He seems to be getting into the team, out of the team in one position when he's in it. Then the next time he gets a run, he's over in a different position. There's different players around him all of the time. And look, that is chicken and egg. Obviously, I've been on that wheel where the reason you're chopping and changing the team so much, you know, people will say, you know, you need consistency to start getting results. Well, unfortunately, the results tends to come before the consistency. You get results, and therefore you follow that with consistency. And that's kind of as I say, that's the wheel that they're stuck on at the moment. But like as Johnny was saying, it can apply to absolutely everybody, Rory. I mean, Ronaldo individually, in terms of goal scoring aside, Scott McTominay maybe playing a bit above his curve as well, but you know, the vast majority of that Manchester United side are you know, just way below what we would expect them as both individuals, and then obviously that transfers into what they are as a team.
Surely, Shane, the best way that they can play is the way that they played when they were at their best under Solskjaer, which was reliant on a lot of pace and attacking dynamism on the break, which Ronaldo will not bring you, I'm sorry. And having like a good kind of sitting system where basically Fred and McTominay can protect that back four, albeit the back four has to be playing a lot better than it is. Because since Ronaldo has come in, like there's no structure to what they're doing at all, apart from starting Ronaldo.
So are you leaving him out?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I don't think he brings balance to the team because he doesn't have the pace on the break, and Man United aren't really a possession team. So, like, Ronaldo's a big problem. Like, look at their record since Ronaldo has come in, and look at how badly they've played almost 80% of the games, we'll say.
Yeah, well, firstly, it's not going to happen. Whatever about us arguing whether it should happen or shouldn't happen, it's not going to happen.
Turns 37 next month.
Yeah, I can assure you, 100% assure you that a fit Cristiano Ronaldo will start 90% of Manchester United games.
Is that a problem? Is that a problem?
Is it a problem? Look, I get where it is a problem. I get where you're coming from. It is a problem, definitely. But when it's a problem, when it's not an option to drop him, and it's not an option to drop him, I'm telling you, it's just, it can't be done. Like, I mean, last night he was captain. It's upwards he's going in the trajectory.
The man is 37 next month. It's like Joe Biden. Like, where are we going to get this right? He's too old to perform at this level. And like Manchester City and Liverpool go to Old Trafford and absolutely batter Man United, partly because they can't press.
Yeah, it ain't going to happen. I'm just telling you, it's definitely not going to happen. All right. So if it's not going to happen, well, then it's all about trying to come up with a system that accommodates him as best as possible.
Which is what?
Well, I still think they can play on the counter attack with him there. I think he becomes the first phase and the third phase of that counter attack. In other words, you sit deep, you play out to Ronaldo rather than playing beyond Ronaldo. You play out to Ronaldo. He then sets it back to your Bruno Fernandes, let's say, And then if you're playing 4-2-3-1, let's say, which I would have thought is the best way of getting the most out of them, and your left and your right are go with whatever you want, Sancho, Greenwood, Rashford, choose whoever you want from those players. So the ball goes up to Ronaldo, comes back to Bruno Fernandes, and those boys are then on the run down the line, and you're trying to get them away, and now Ronaldo backs up that attack, and he's the player that you come back to. So that, a counter-attack doesn't necessarily have to be an immediate outball that Ronaldo spins onto. I suppose the problem in what I've named there is that a hell of a lot of the time, the best attacking player that they've had in some games has been Cavani. And there's no place for him in that setup.
He's only 35, isn't he?
A young fella compared to the other lad.
Bloody hell.
And look, in all of that then, what happens when Pogba comes back? Or is he ever coming back?
We could actually, to be fair, I'm quite bored about the Man United chat, and I shouldn't be saying that as a presenter. But today I'm energised because Shane Keegan, he brings that dynamism despite COVID. And in fairness, it's great that we're in a situation where somebody may have COVID, and this will happen over the next few weeks, but is still able to dial in and sounds perfectly healthy. And hopefully we're getting to the end of this. Shane, we've about 3 minutes to talk about LOI players moving to Scotland. Rory O'Connor made an impassioned plea to Irish football, to government, to everyone. We need a football industry in this country. Fortunately, we don't have one. That's why players are going to Scotland. Yeah,
100%. Look, I've said it to you before, as on our pro licence, Johnny, we went across to Scotland. The pro licence group of 16 was split up into 4 groups of 4, and each of those 4 groups was sent into a different club. We flew into Glasgow, and we were sent into 4 clubs reasonably around the Glasgow perimeter, excluding Celtic and Rangers. And all of us came back with the same stories. These were the smaller satellite clubs around Glasgow. Mine was St. Mirren. And we all came back with just stored, we were just blown away by the fact that it was a complete and utter different level in terms of the professionalism of everything that went with football at each of these clubs. And you can have your moaning and this and that some players are taking a step backwards by going to some of the clubs that they are over there. They're not. They're quite simply not. They're going into a proper football industry where they feel like a proper professional full-time footballer. And I can see why the Dan Clearys or anybody else like that is making that move. And it's going to continue to happen for a long time yet. We have made serious steps in the right direction. We need to continue to make those steps in the right direction. But for the moment, like your Dan Clearys, there's no way in the world you're going to turn down an opportunity like that.
It's how do we change that, Shane? How do we? I mean, it's probably not a question to be asked. About a minute left on the running order. But we can't accept our place in the pecking order in that way, can we? Because Scotland is the same size as us. I know it's 100 years of history that we're trying to upend, but it seems very negative to just accept that our players have to go there, to get on the ladder.
Yeah, you say we're a country similar size, Scotland. You're right, Rory. What's the big difference? And this is coming from a fella who has 1 foot in both camps. The big difference is the GEA. Scotland don't have to contend with the GEA, and that is the number one reason, in my mind. No matter what else you look at, that is the number one reason. In terms of finance, in terms of attendances, in terms of fighting for people's hearts, all of that kind of thing. That is the big thing that sometimes people leave out of the conversation, and it is one thing that just has to be factored in when we're trying to come up with any plan,
If any neighbours are listening in, Shane, anything they can bring to your front door to get you through these harrowing times?
Cough bottle, probably, Johnny, is top of the list.
That'll do. Great to talk to you.
Cheers, Shane. Go well soon.
Next, we'll get to the sports pages. I think that is the cue to go to the sports page. It actually is. Well, this show is just—it's like we've been on.
We're freewheeling, Johnny.
Freewheeling, Dylan. It's been, I have to apologise for some of the freewheeling going on here, but Shane was great. I think I don't know. I know I'll get slagged for saying that about Ronaldo, but at the same time, I've watched Man United enough to know that at the very least they're not functioning, and I'm not really sure why.
I think it's just that they're not a team that's planned by a coach. They're a team that's planned by a corporation, and they're put together. Ronaldo was signed as a kind of almost a statement to say that City couldn't get him, and because he was on the market, they should go and get him. He wasn't signed with a specific role in mind. It would have been like the sliding doors moment of if Guardiola had signed Ronaldo and had managed him for a season, that would have been even more interesting. But Yeah, like they're just like you watch Chelsea Liverpool on Sunday and the quality of that game. You watch even Arsenal City,
great game.
which Arsenal were very well organised, very well coached, a lot of young players there as well. And then you compare it to what we saw like last night, which was wasn't even that entertaining. And Wolves were the better team, but played a better football. United had their chances, but they're
a bit like my performance this morning, all over the shop. Really, let's be honest.
Yeah,
Colin Mullany will soon be in to talk a bit of Sligo Gaelic Games news actually, and an interesting game last night that I think was very attractive to sports photographers for various reasons. We'll start with the star